I've recently been filming a complete video series on this first generation Mercedes-Benz automatic climate control system. A lot of our customers will email us and ask, well, how do I know if I have this system? Because they're saying I don't have any heat, or my heat's on all the time, and it's cold in my car, and it's winter. And we want to try to help these folks, and that's why I've been working on this video series, which includes some rather detailed instructional on-demand videos on my website. But here I just want to briefly talk about how you recognize if you have the system and discuss the key component that fails in the system and where you can obtain one. So let me show you first how you can tell if you look in your car whether or not you have the early first generation Mercedes automatic climate control system. You've been looking in the interior of a 1980 300 TD wagon. 1980 is the last year of this system, and the way you tell is by simply looking at that climate control panel that you see here in this shot. Notice that the buttons, the push buttons, go up and down vertically, and you can see the temperature wheel off to the left, and then you have on the right side an air conditioning on-off button. If you see this panel in your car, it could be a W116 sedan, it could be a W107 SL convertible, or it could be a W123 300D, 300TD, or 300CD from 1977 to 1980. This is what you're looking for, and welcome. Welcome to the early climate control system. You are looking at the climate control servo, this unit right here. This is black plastic. It sits right behind, on the W123 chassis, it sits right behind the right headlight on the 116 and 117. It fits up near the firewall. This is the unit that causes most of the problems in these systems. It has a number of vacuum lines and wiring coming into it, and one of its weak points is this plastic housing will crack and allow coolant to go into this servo and ruin the motor and drive mechanism for the valve. So that means your valve will either stick open or stick closed, and that valve is what regulates the hot coolant going into your heater core inside the cabin of the car. Now these units are not cheap, and if you want to restore the system, in most cases you're going to have to look at this first. I have a two-part video series on my website which talks all about this unit and all the other things that are associated with it, talks about how to test it. We open one up and show you what's inside. So if you really want to get into the details, be sure and check those two videos out. But right now, I just want to talk to you about where can you get a replacement for one of these. You really have four options to either fix or replace or repair, however you want to call it, this climate control servo issue. Now, it's not cheap. Probably the cheapest is in the $300 range, and it could go right up to $750, depending upon which type of servo replacement you want to install. Now, if you don't want to spend that much money on the car, granted, there are some older cars that may not be worth the investment, but if you have a really nice one, a 6.9 or a very nice 300 SD or a 450 SEL or a nice wagon or something that you want to keep as a driver, I would highly recommend that you just bite the bullet and fix that climate control system. If it's done properly, you can get a lot more good years out of it. You'll understand where the primary weakness in the system is, and with some of these replacement options, that weakness is eliminated, and you'll learn more about that a little bit later here. But at first, if you just want to get the heat shut off or get the heat on, we have a kit on our website. I've come up with this little kit. You can install a valve and install a cable into your car, remove the servo. You're not going to get automatic climate. It's going to be a little bit difficult to regulate because you're going to have to open and close the valve manually. But it will shut the heat off in the summer, and it will turn the heat on in the winter. So that's option number one. Now, option number two is to try to find a good used servo. But that's difficult. Since these are getting so old now and you do not know whether they've ever been contaminated with coolant, and the person selling it may tell you it's okay, but how do you know? They may not even know how to test it. So used is an option if you're careful and purchase it from the right source, okay? The other option, which I really like if you're going to retain the original servo, is to purchase a remanufactured servo unit with a CNC machined aluminum housing. Now, do you see how that's eliminated the problem? It's eliminated that weak plastic housing which cracked due to heat and age and replaced it with something that's never going to crack again. So you can be pretty sure you get a lot more years of use out of one of these when it's installed in your car. Now, we do not supply these. My good friend George Murphy, who I consider the world's expert on this early climate control system, is the place to go to get this. And he also has some great technical information on troubleshooting your system that he can share with you. So if you're interested in this modern upgrade servo with the aluminum housing, just follow the link below in the description to a Performance Analysis Products. That's George's company. And you'll get to see what he's offering. He has a great warranty on these. And this is a good option. And then finally, there's one more option. And that's replacing the servo altogether with a modern electronic control unit. You literally remove this from the car, you put an electronic box in there, you put a new simple vacuum valve in the system that opens and closes and controls the heat, and then everything else stays original. You're not cutting a lot of wires or eliminating your climate control panel. You'll never know. In fact, you can take the servo out, put this electronic unit in, and then a couple years later you can put the servo back in with just changing some basic vacuum lines that you've had to modify. Let me show you. I chose that system in my 300 SD 116 because it's a really nice car and I intended to keep it for a long time. Let me show you the installation, what that looks like in a 300 SD. I'd like to talk now about an alternative to the cumbersome and often troublesome climate control servo that was installed in these cars, and that is this modern electronic upgrade. This little silver box is like a little computer which picks up the vacuum senses. See, I've hooked up vacuum lines to it. I've also wired in the original wiring plugs. So you don't have to you can see here where I've put this little board with the wiring right into the original plugs here. So I don't have to do a lot of changing to the original vacuum hoses and to the wiring in the car. I just have to go through a kind of a modification of the existing hoses and wires. And then the key component, you just totally eliminate the servo. You put a pipe that bypasses one side of the servo, and then the other side you put this simple vacuum on-off valve. This is very similar to the valve like in the W201 chassis. And then this silver box right here picks up all the sensors from the original system and simply opens and closes this very simple valve. Instead of having that mechanism where it's trying to move that servo inside that unit up and down, and with all the problems of internal leaks and so on. So I'm not going to go over all the details on this unit. You can check it out on our website. We do sell these. They're not expensive, but well worth it if you plan to keep your car and you want the climate control to be reliable and consistent. Okay, so those are the options. One thing I should mention, it's really important, if you choose to replace the servo, plan on replacing this unit right here. This is the electric amplifier, which drives the servo. In most cases, when these servos fail, they'll seize and they'll continue to try to draw current, and they'll overload and burn out this amplifier. So if you're going to buy, if your servo is bad, and if you don't know how to test these, once again, remember, I've got those videos that'll take you through the whole process of how to test yours to see whether it's working. But if it's failed, you replace this with the servo. You got it? That's not an option. If you don't, it probably is not going to work properly. Even George will tell you, if you get a rebuilt unit from him, you need to get a rebuilt amplifier, and he also offers those amplifiers rebuilt on his website. So if you want to just bypass the system altogether with a simple valve, you know, check that out on my website. If you want a good used unit, I have about 2 left at the time we're filming this, but you know, these are becoming almost extinct, good used ones. And if you want to get the a very nice servo with the aluminum housing, contact George Murphy at Performance Analysis. And if you're really interested in that electronic upgrade, be sure and check that out on my website. I will put links below to these different options, and I hope this helps you. I hope at least get you on the right track to getting your climate control system working again.